Miles, what's up? The Houston Rockets just traded for Russell Westbrook. They traded Chris Paul. They traded picks. They got reunited teammates. Oklahoma City, now in Houston, a couple miles to the west. Where are you at? What are your thoughts? How are you?
I'm good. I'm in Phoenix. It's hot. And this was a move I did not see coming at all. It seemed like a joke to me. Like a lot of the stuff that's happened this summer, I initially thought it was a joke. Something that somebody came up with on Instagram to fool me.
Miles, this is not your father's NBA. This is not your older brother's NBA. This is not your NBA 5 minutes ago. 5 days ago. This is NBA 2019.
This is Adam Silver's NBA, and I like it. I don't think that it's going to work. My initial gut reaction is that this doesn't work under Mike D'Antoni. I'll tell you why initially I think that. The last time that these two players played together, James Harden was sixth man of the year. And that's why he got out of Oklahoma City. That was 8 years ago. He's now an MVP, and this year was second in the running for the MVP. And the year before that, I guess it was maybe a couple years before that, Russell Westbrook was the MVP. These two guys have been in the running against each other for sort of similar things. They're able to put up triple-double numbers whenever they want. Why? Because their teammates let them grab those range rebounds and they don't fight them for it. That's what Steven Adams was so good at, is he would give up those rebounds to Russell Westbrook, who really wanted them. Both of these guys love those stats. They love to chase those cheap triple-doubles. Now that both of them are going to be chasing it, they're both going to have to give up something that they may not want to give up, is my hunch. Last year, James Harden's usage rate was at 40%, 10% higher than anybody else in the league. That means 4 out of every 10 plays, James Harden was shooting the ball. Or at least dribbling it 50 times and making a pass, as James Harden does. Nobody else in the world can do it except James Harden.
Miles, this is not a date. This is a marriage. You are not trading or flipping Russell Westbrook like you did Chris Paul. Daryl Morey did the impossible. He traded Chris Paul's contract. Now, he's going to have to top that and then some if he's going to want to get rid of Russell Westbrook. And just like the honeymoon phase was with Chris Paul, there was an understanding that there could be a slight decline in the game of a point guard who's taken a lot of shots, who's taken a lot of minutes, who's dribbled a lot of basketballs. Except this guy is a former league MVP. He's used to being the face of a franchise and really the last time he wasn't was in UCLA to Kevin Love and to Darren Collison. Because when he got to Oklahoma City, I'm sorry, but Kevin Durant's team was in Seattle, and I will always defend that argument point. So he's making upwards of $47 million in that last year. Miles, I'm going to list off some players who were MVPs and who played together. League MVPs and who were on the same team and played together. Shaq and Kobe. Okay, that's 2. LeBron and Derrick Rose in the Cavaliers.
Good catch.
Kevin Durant and Steph Curry.
Mm-hmm.
And now Russell Westbrook and James Harden. Steve Nash and Dirk Nowitzki, although Steve Nash developed, I guess, actually, wait, I take that back. Dirk Nowitzki was never league MVP. I'll take that back, right?
Are you sure?
Actually, yes, he was, right? He was. I can't remember what year,
he
but
was.
he was. I think I'm right. I think he was.
He was at least an NBA Finals MVP in 2010, I believe, or 2000. When did they win? Was it 2010?
2011 is when they beat LeBron in the Heat.
That's right.
Regardless, I'm looking at these: Kevin Garnett, Wilt Chamberlain, Steve Nash, Moses Malone, Karl Malone, Oscar Robertson, Derrick Rose, David Robertson, Shaquille O'Neal, Tim Duncan, James Harden, Kevin Durant, LeBron James. There aren't that many league MVPs out there. Giannis now in 2019.
That's actually more than I thought. I forgot about Tim Duncan, David Robinson, but they were they only had like a couple good years together. But yeah, that's crazy actually, that list.
That's exactly. But the point is, the point is Daryl Morey flipped the worst contract in NBA history, arguably, into 2 league MVPs who were former teammates, who are best friends, and who apparently, according to Woj, and I'm reading some of these tweets, apparently Russell Westbrook really wanted to join the Houston Rockets and replay with James Harden. Wow, I think we should just stick on the Houston side for now. We'll get to the Oklahoma City later. But it's
interesting. It's interesting that Westbrook wanted it. I'm curious to hear what James Harden says about it, because the last time that these two played together, it was Russ Westbrook's team, or I guess Kevin Durant's team, but really it went Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook with James Harden. And that's why he had to leave, is to make his own name. And that's exactly what he did. Now, it's James Harden's team, and there's nobody else. It's James Harden's team. And right. Westbrook is coming in to join James Harden.
But does that help take pressure off of a Russell Westbrook, who realizes, I think mentally, subconsciously, or maybe consciously, he realized, hey, maybe in today's NBA, I'm not, maybe I should have helped Kevin Durant feel more welcome, and maybe I should have let him stay in Oklahoma City, made him feel part of more of a 1A to my 1B, because he needs a guy who can be the playmaker. I think I texted you this. Russell Westbrook is going to be a Leandro Barbosa on just not on steroids, because I don't think he's on steroids, but Steve Nash and Leandro Barbosa had a complementary playmaking styles. And I think you'll see the same thing in James Harden and Westbrook. It's like one guy's a great dynamic playmaker and a great shooter, and the other guy's a freak athletic, driving to the basket, high energy motor player. Except this guy's a former league MVP, still in his prime, arguably. I mean, yes, he fell off the deep end last year, but that's because Paul George had a broken shoulder. He had 2 broken shoulders. I mean, what could have happened if they were in listen, I'm a Blazer fan. Long wings and bigs are what we struggle against. Russell Westbrook versus Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, I'll take the Blazers every day. But if you're going to blame Oklahoma City's first round exit consecutive years in a row, I think you go after you criticize the first year loss to Utah and rookie Donovan Mitchell more than last year's Blazer team. I guess we can transition. I mean, I'm just so flabbergasted because
it's really hard.
Daryl Morey.
It's really hard to wrap your head around and try to figure out how it's going to work. And there is a world where it does work because they're both so good. And right. I feel like they do sort of complement each other in a way that, like I said, James Harden can shoot the ball like nobody else in the league. And Westbrook can drive the ball and get to the rim. And I like the idea of a guard as fast as Westbrook in a D'Antoni system, like as explosive as he is. I think that'll be kind of interesting.
I think you're
he
giving
is
too
sort
much
of
credit.
Unselfish with the ball.
I think you're giving too much credit to D'Antoni. And I want to stop you there because I think D'Antoni may be the first scapegoat in this marriage. I think you look at baseball nowadays, and baseball, the manager is not really, making in-game strategy decisions anymore. Daryl Morey is a wizard, and he's a master of analytics. The Houston Rockets are a different beast altogether. They don't play this same NBA as everybody else plays the NBA. They play the way they want to play the NBA. So if if you're trying to look at the two MVPs, Russell Westbrook and James Harden, it's like in this NBA, specifically for the Rockets NBA, it's just a different, they just play a different game. And I think saying that means this can work. You can have two primary playmakers if you just surround them. They still have Eric Gordon. They still have Clint Capella. Miles, that's 4 right there. You give Daryl Morey the scrap heap of waiver wire, one G League stud standout that no one ever knows about, and a minimum signing, and that's almost 7. That's a playoff team.
I think it's a playoff team that takes an early exit. I mean, we've seen the way that James Harden has played in the playoffs the last 2 years. It has not been an MVP performance. We've seen the way that Westbrook has played in the last few years. Also, again, not MVP performances. We've seen the way that the Rockets can self-destruct. I do blame that on D'Antoni. I don't think this is... I think it feels like a Band-Aid that they're trying to find a little bit of hope in the middle of something that absolutely failed. And they're trying to give the Houston Rockets fans like this glimmer. But when you see the teams that are actually being formed, when I see great backcourts, Lillard, McCollum, you see Steph and Clay. We'll go with those two to start. You have one definite absolute superstar,
Conley and
which
Donovan.
is Curry and Lillard. Yeah. So what these other guards have in common is that they complement a superstar and they find a way to work around that one superstar. McCollum has an interesting knack for playing the pick and roll and getting mid-range. But he never, ever really steps on Lillard's toes. Same thing with Klay Thompson, where he can go off at any point. Their partnership is unique to pretty much anything we've ever seen in the NBA. But it's still Klay Thompson backing up Steph Curry. I don't see... I mean, I guess we won't see it until they play together. But I don't see either one of these players being able to take a back seat in the same way that Klay Thompson can or that CJ McCollum can, or they're willing to. And maybe Westbrook is willing to do that. I don't know. It depends on how bad he wants a championship, I think.
And I think the time is now. I think you look at what happened to Dwayne Wade. I think you look at, over the course of his Heat career, he was he was arguably the one of the top 3 players in the league when LeBron joined him. And by the second year, it was clear that he wasn't in LeBron's category. And maybe you'll see that this year where, Russell is still in that all-star level. But once he falls out of that, if he does, that might spell the end of the Houston Rockets. Because he's taken a lot of shots. He's taken a lot of blows, and he's taken a lot of responsibility on those shoulders of his. And, maybe the weight of carrying a franchise has taken a toll.
And maybe you might be right on that, actually, for both of them. Like maybe neither one of them really feel like James Harden doesn't want to have all that weight of the Rockets. Westbrook doesn't want everything that's coming with OKC. And maybe they want to try to split that load together, and they have the unique experiences of having had that very pressure set on them to try and drag a team through the playoffs in the same way that LeBron dragged Cleveland, where people saw that it was possible and they went, well, this guy's an MVP. LeBron James was an MVP. They should be able to do the same thing, right? But they can't.
Miles,
maybe together they can.
Let's focus on Russell for a second before we transition to Oklahoma City. Russell had weirdly a lot of leverage in this situation. He vetoed apparently the Cleveland Cavaliers were interested in acquiring him. I read maybe the Bulls were possibly interested as well. Orlando Magic, New York Knicks. who said they came out and were not interested, but they were still floated out there. Miami Heat, possible union with Jimmy Butler. But Russell pushed for Oklahoma City, or pushed for a Houston trade, but I listed all those other destinations. He could have gone to Cleveland. He could have pushed for the Chicago. He could have started over in another place. He could have gone to the Eastern Conference. He could have done a lot of things. Is this the best situation for Russell specifically?
Like initially, my gut says no.
Detroit with Blake Griffin.
I think that would have been better. The fact that his contract doesn't end, I think, until 2023, right?
Something like that, man.
Is sort of unfortunate for the way that the league is going. I think by 2023, there's going to be a way more definite contender and somebody kind of knocking at the door. So we're still going to have options then.
I agree. You can kind of feel another Golden State kind of bubbling, right? Like if Denver gets another piece by 2021, if Denver gets Giannis or something, who knows what's going on? But I mean,
if Denver even develops some of their draft picks right now, like if they get Michael Porter Jr. healthy, if they get Bol to develop and I think the way that his full potential could be, that's an interesting team. And
should Westbrook have pushed to go to Denver? No, that was a joke. But I mean, what about him in a Miami? What would that have looked like?
That was what I was actually really hoping for, was that he would find a way to end up in Miami with Butler. And I had one more. I think they were talking about. I saw something crazy like a Klay Thompson.
Well, that is crazy.
Which I actually really liked that pairing together. Like Westbrook, Thompson, and Butler. I feel like those three players actually complement each other in a really awesome way.
Oh, because like Klay Thompson would go to Miami as well?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't think it's possible. Or it's going to happen, but I like the pairing. I mean, they're all kind of like at least defensive minded. Klay Thompson's kind of an underrated defender, I think. I've been watching a lot of his stuff. He's very good defensively. But I don't know. I don't feel like this is the best fit for Westbrook.
I think it's a good enough fit because he's a guy that can take pressure off of him in the regular season, if nothing else, because you can give the ball to Westbrook for, he goes hard every single minute he's on the court. And whether he's going to produce more than Chris Paul, that's a fact. And if you're looking at a Houston Rockets team, Chris Paul was the area of weakness for the amount that he was earning on his contract. So I think it's a good benefit. I think, like I said, the Houston Rockets play this weird analytical style of basketball where you'll get a lot of possessions. I mean, just look at that month that James Harden had where he went off for 30 and 30 and 30 and 30. I mean, they just kind of do the same thing, and I think they'll find a way. They'll find a way because they have to find a way.
Maybe.
So transitioning into Oklahoma City, because the Rocket has taken off from Houston. And Houston, we might have a problem. So now we look, Miles. Oklahoma City had 4 unprotected first-round picks for Paul George. They just got Chris Paul. They got rid of Westbrook, so that gives the point guard from the Clippers a chance to really make it his team, Gilgeous-Alexander. They hit the reset button, and they get more first-round picks that will likely be conveyed into the 20s. But Bobby Marks mentioned that they still have their first-round pick this year. They have Philadelphia's first-round pick that's top 20 protected, which will likely be conveyed to them this year because Philly will, I think, make the conference finals. But regardless, they will still be given that first round pick. They'll get their own pick from tanking. This is a historic haul that Sam Presti has engineered. And apparently, reportedly, he had 48 hours to find a trade for Paul George. Miles, you don't put together a trade like this in 48 hours. He has been working on every possible trade for every person on his roster, as every GM should. We'll always praise Danny Ainge for getting a haul from the Nets for the Garnett trade. But I ask you, is this haul a greater haul than anybody in NBA history? And can you give me an example of somebody that's gotten more than what Sam Presti has gotten for two broken, aging stars that he signed for a long time?
I think what he's done is sort of what Houston should have tried to do.
Interesting.
What he did was took something that didn't work. He gave it a proper amount of time, right? He gave him 2 years, and then he saw that they kind of figured it out last year, and they still flopped in the playoffs, and they went, this probably isn't going to work. We're not going to be able to turn this into a championship team. They're paying way too much money. They weren't able to add an extra superstar. They're already the most expensive team in the NBA, I believe. They had a higher salary cap than anybody else. Their luxury tax was unbelievable.
Clint Capella is still on a max.
Yeah, they went like, this needs to change. He unloaded Paul George and just traded Westbrook. And now he's got 8 draft picks, 8 first-round draft picks, dating all the way through, I think, 2026. Something insane like that. Plus, he's got 4 different, I think, trade exceptions, where depending on whose team is better or worse, he can just go, I want that draft pick.
Swap rights.
Yeah, that's it. I don't think teams are really giving him credit, and I don't think they will until they see a result of what those draft picks really produce. I don't think we'll see a great OKC team for another 5 years.
I think it's ironic that the Clippers were involved in this because I think the Thunder can take after the Clippers in a lot of ways. They can be rebuilding on the fly, kind of like how the Pelicans are. They're anticipating Zion's going to be good. They're anticipating they're going to have a good roster, so they might as well try and be the best they can and develop the young talent and get them as many minutes as they can. Just like the Clippers did. The Clippers were geniuses in getting Kawhi Leonard because, like we haven't talked about this yet, but because they played the long game. They traded Tobias Harris for more assets, even as free agency was going on, they had a chance to sign Kawhi, but they traded for Mo Harkless and took on another first-round pick because they knew that they could use their young assets, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They still had Danilo Gallinari. And all of those picks, they could flip that for another star. And I think if you are the Thunder, you're kind of hoping for a bad season this year so that you can tank, get the first pick, top 3 pick, have a star, develop a star, and then use your picks to flip him and get him a secondary star. That's the role. That's the model in the NBA. And Sam Presti drafted Russell Westbrook at number 4. He drafted James Harden at number 3. Okay, Kevin Durant at 2. I could have made that pick, but still, he's
Harden
made some
was
good
number
picks.
3 pick.
Harden was the 3rd overall pick behind Hasheem Thabeet. Memphis at number 2.
Man. I didn't realize he was a 3rd pick. I thought he was like 7 or something.
No, he was a top 3 pick. So he's still identified, but I remember that draft. He kind of took some heat because James Harden hadn't been put on at the national stage. He was a skilled guard, but he still had concerns about his conditioning, and there were other concerns. But I think he's an eye for talent. Granted, Perry Jones III didn't develop into the superstar that some thought he might be at Baylor. But he did develop Jeremy Grant. He did develop Steven Adams. Oklahoma City is a place where you have to grow your talent. And I think without the Russell Westbrook cloud hanging over it, I'm sorry, but it kind of was. I mean, if you it's like the guy who grows up in his hometown and then he owns a business in the hometown. So he's just, he feels like he's in control of everything and he has to have everything set up. It's like he was the boss. He wanted to have his parking spot always vacant. He wanted to have his breakfast cooked the same way. He wanted this. He wanted that. He wanted to be Russell Westbrook's show and the Oklahoma City Thunder's first round exit. But in reality, it should be Sam Presti running the show. And I think it will be now. This is just crazy. And I don't know.
It's really easy to get it's really easy to get lost in both schools of thought. What's interesting
there's
to
so
me,
many paths that these teams could take now. Well,
interesting
the Thunder.
To me, like OKC adding a floor general like Chris Paul. I'm curious to see what he's able to do with it, and what I think they should put. I don't want to say pressure, but I want to see what Steven Adams can do.
Interesting.
Like, what can Steven Adams do run and pick and roll with Chris Paul? What can he do when he's not giving up rebounds to Russ Westbrook?
Interesting.
I think we
or Shai Gilgeous.
I think we see a new Steven Adams. At least I'm hoping. Hopefully, a more skilled Steven Adams. But he still wants to be a role player. Chris Paul, I think, wants to be in control of the ball. But then you still got, I don't even know who's in OKC anymore. They lost Jeremy Grant, right? So they've got
traded him too.
Dennis Schroeder, a bunch of role players around Chris Paul. I think it's kind of like Chris Paul's turn to be like, show if he's still got it. Can he put that team together?
Newsflash, he doesn't.
A real floor general, or is his career pretty much over?
It's over.
I think this is end game for Chris Paul. I think Oklahoma City knows that. Which, I mean, why else would they? Why else would they pick him up? And pick up like that many draft picks?
He played in Oklahoma City during the Katrina years where they couldn't play in New Orleans. And that gave them showed the NBA that there were fans in Oklahoma City in the Midwest, kind of South area, that would fill up an arena and fill up a crowd, would go to a game and would support the hometown team. And that's how they got the Oklahoma City Thunder, or a part in how they stole, how they just ripped the Pacific Northwest, the great Pacific Northwest basketball, major league sports, and they put it in Oklahoma.
R.I.P. Supersonics.
Why? I don't understand. Regardless, you reunite Chris Paul in Oklahoma City. It's a fan favorite. It's a great move, and I think we talked about trading Chris Paul back to the New Orleans Pelicans for that kind of same nostalgic reason.
Yep.
And who better to mentor Shai Gilgeous but one of the greatest point guards of all time? Honestly. He's going to get his minutes. He's going to get his money. I'm sorry. What else is there? He's going to be loved by the fans. Yeah, you may not be contending for a championship, Chris Paul, but guess what? You had 2 chances, and you tore your hamstring in one, and you didn't get it done in the second. So I don't know what you want. I'm sorry.
He had a lot of chances,
you had
actually,
a chance.
because they had chances when he was at the Clippers as well. More than 2 chances. That was under Doc Rivers, too. Chris Paul was able to do whatever he wanted. He was in his prime, and he had
Lob City.
Lob
City and JJ Redick. I'm sorry.
And that was when they were
and Jamal Crawford
motivated. DeAndre Jordan was at the height of his game as well. He wasn't just setting picks 30 feet from the basket.
Listen,
he was
Chris
using
Paul
his
got
40-inch
DeAndre Jordan paid for the rest of his life.
Yep.
He would not be where he is right now without Chris Paul, and I think you and I both know that.
He took a giant pay cut. Who did he sign with?
Brooklyn?
Yeah, that was it. 4-year, $40 million or something.
I didn't think he jumped in Dallas.
Half of what his last contract was.
Still, I don't think he was worth that.
No, I don't
4
either.
years, 40? No way.
I mean,
Okay,
I guess in today's NBA, when you see who's making that kind of money, honestly, like Myers Leonard, and you see the production, that guy's making $10 million a year. Actually, I kind of feel like he's maybe worth that, but kind of.
So Miles, does Oklahoma City drop out of the playoff picture now?
I think so. Yes, I think the West is too tough. Like the way the Lakers look, the way the Clippers look. Honestly, Golden State, after picking up D'Angelo Russell, that's interesting. Obviously the Blazers, what? The Nuggets,
who gutted half of their team. It's a completely different team.
Yep. I like it.
I
still like it.
I think Neil O'Shea repented for his 2016 sins.
Yeah, I think he knew it too. Because, I mean, I think he just had more money than he knew what to deal with. He knew he kind of had to spend it. And he was like, we'll give this guy some money.
And everybody else thought the cap was going to keep going up. Like, first of all, I don't know how they thought that. Because how many more TV deals are going to cut? It's already on TV. They can't be more on TV.
I think they should just take the salary cap away. But that's a topic for a different time. Yeah.
And they get Hassan Whiteside.
Huge upgrade from Cantor.
Flipped him.
In my opinion. I love Cantor.
Maurice Harkless and Myers Leonard.
Fantastic trade. I think maybe for both teams, to be honest with you. Miami's obviously planning something.
Well, Miami was planning to get Butler. That's what the thing was. So like if you're on the third team end of a 3-teamer where 2 teams are desperate, it's like, hey, you may get some.
But I also think that Miami definitely has a long-term game.
Yeah, and because there's no way want to get rid of Whiteside as well.
Yeah, that's been an unhealthy relationship for the last 3 years, to be honest. Like,
when they made him, they paid him like he was going to be the face of the franchise, and then the NBA shifted into this isn't Dwight Howard's NBA anymore. I think maybe in Dwight Howard's NBA, Hassan Whiteside could have done something in the playoffs, but now it's like, you just need to kind of set screens and protect the paint. Sorry.
I mean, he averaged 17 and 14 back in 2017, 17 season.
So he's not too far removed.
No, he's really not. His minutes went way down. I think that has to do with the relationship in Miami, where his minutes were sitting at like 22 minutes a game last year. And he was still putting up solid double-double numbers.
Zach Collins, Nurkic. Those are 3 5s. Do you play Collins at the 4 and that's primarily?
I think so. I mean, why not? He doesn't.
What happens when you go small? When teams go small and you switch everything and you have Collins and maybe you're right.
Enough.
Maybe you're right. Maybe Collins. Yeah, if you just give Whiteside, Myers Leonard minutes.
Think about the offensive side of the ball when teams are going to play small. You cannot play small against the Blazers unless you want to go hit for hit with them and try and bang with Nurkic down in the paint. Try and contain Hassan Whiteside. Honestly, if a team goes small, I would put Hassan Whiteside and Zach Collins playing the 4-5 position and see how that works for the regular season. If teams try to go small on you and you go old school on them and pound it into the paint.
The only problem I see is I loved the Blazers. I loved seeing the Blazers with the Collins at the 5, and they were going small. Mino at the 4, somebody else at the 3, and then the two Rain brothers or whatever. I don't know if they're stupid little nicknames, whatever they call the greatest backcourt in the NBA right now. Okay, they're the greatest backcourt in the NBA right now. They're the best backcourt in the NBA. At me. Are they? Or is it in Houston? Well, because Klay Thompson's on crutches. So,
I mean, honestly, the most talented is definitely in Houston, no doubt. But
is it
the best backcourt? I don't know. I feel like it is. It's got to. I can't think of another one.
We were okay. So CJ
McCollum's never going to win an MVP.
He's not even going to be an All-Star. I'm sorry.
No, but that's probably. that's probably like the day and age that he's playing, to be honest with you. It's not because he's not an all-star level. It's because
No, if he was in the East, he would be an all-star.
Yeah,
He's
and if
in
he came
Detroit,
from
he'd be an all-star. If he was in Cleveland.
he came from Lehigh University, there's no way you're going to get that guy. The way that he didn't develop into Steph Curry. He developed into the backup for Damian Lillard. I think he's been kind of typecast, but he's still developed a great career for himself, a guy out of Lehigh. I'm really proud of him.
They lose.
We were talking about yes.
They lose Harkless.
I think Portland is set up really great because Nasir Little can now come in, and he's been playing really well. He needs to develop immediately. Like we need him. No, seriously. Like we need him right now. Because
you're super serious about it.
I am. Because what does Portland have? I mean, they've got Kent Bazemore, I suppose. But that means that we're putting a lot of pressure on Kent Bazemore to fill the things that Mo Harkless and Aminu were able to do for us.
And Evan Turner to some extent.
And Evan Turner, absolutely. Like, they're the entire defensive presence that Portland had. We have a paint presence with Hassan Whiteside, who led the league in blocked shots. He's going to be a great rebounder. I think he's going to have a new sense of urgency and hope playing for Portland. He's going to love playing with Damian Lillard and with all those guys. I think Whiteside's going to do a fantastic job in the paint. And he's way better defensively, way smarter, higher IQ, better timing, everything than Cantor was. And Cantor did a great job. But we need Nasir Little to be able to guard on the ball and to guard people like LeBron James.
We need him to be OG Anunoby of Toronto. We need him to be a Jaylen Brown of Boston. I mean, that's kind of what you're asking for.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be Nasir Little and Kent Bazemore. That's their jobs, is to be perimeter defenders on the best that the league has to offer, which is a lot.
They lose Jake Layman.
I liked him, but I'm not too upset about it yet. Portland hasn't done anything where I'm going.
What if he's a Will Barton? Are you upset about that? Will Barton got paid.
Yes. I'm upset about Will Barton. Especially because
you're still upset about Will Barton.
He lit us up.
Yes.
I mean, he did fantastic in Denver, and he's part of the reason that I have a great deal of hope for Denver.
Because he's like one of the best bench players that they could have. Or, if he becomes a starter and Michael Porter Jr. is your bench 3, that's great too. Okay, so we didn't even touch on Kawhi and the Clippers and that whole drama saga. And that was a drama saga. We'll do 5 minutes, 10 minutes on that. Then we'll go. I'll let you go. But, man, Kawhi rejecting the Lakers. Rejecting 1+1 to go back to Toronto.
Okay, that didn't surprise me. Well, actually, no. Just kidding. I missed your Toronto comment before I said that. I was not surprised that he did not go to LA. The Lakers, I mean. I was not surprised that he picked the Clippers. I called that a few years ago, and I was not 100%. I would never put like that much money on it because after they won a championship, I thought he was going to go back to Toronto. But then I started reading about sort of the actual money and how it was working. So the taxes that he's paying in Toronto were like 53%. Something ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. And even LA, it's like not that. Okay, I don't want you to steal your point.
Yeah, so he was going to take a bigger contract in Toronto and make $11 million less dollars after taxes than if he signed with a team in LA, where he has a house. He has a house in LA.
Where he's from?
Yes.
Where he's from?
Hometown. The Lakers makes no sense. Why would he go to the Lakers? Why would he team up with LeBron James and Anthony Davis after winning a championship in Toronto?
By himself.
0 cents. Yeah, that makes 0 sense. His legacy is set. He won a championship in San Antonio, playing under Greg Popovich's system, got a finals MVP, and then he went and carved his own path like nothing we've ever seen in the NBA before. a player that left the San Antonio Spurs. When has that happened? A star player that leaves the San Antonio Spurs and then wins a championship. Not just leaving the Spurs, but a franchise player leaves, wins a championship the next year.
So that'd be like if David
Never seen
Robinson
anything
joined.
like it.
David Robinson joined the Orlando Magic and then won the title. Miles,
If he sat out a year.
let me ask you a question. If Kawhi would have joined the Lakers and the Lakers would have won a championship, who would be considered the greatest basketball player of all time? LeBron with rings in 3 different cities or Kawhi? Because I think if LeBron gets one more championship, it puts him at 5. Or that puts him at 4, right? And 4 is just enough to be considered, because he only won 2 in Miami, 1 in Cleveland.
Yep, you're right.
If he wins 4, that kind of puts him in a greater stratosphere. And 4 is more than 3, which is how many Kawhi would have, even though Kawhi would have been the main guy on all 3 championships.
To be honest, I think if Kawhi goes to the Lakers and they win a championship, theoretically,
it's LeBron.
I think it's a smear on both of their legacies.
Oh, interesting. I thought you were going to say it would have been LeBron's championship, because I think all of the LeBron, like, look, we're millennials, and I think a lot of millennials will argue that LeBron is going to be the greatest player of all time. And if he would have won in LA, which he won't now, I don't think, but if he would have won, I think that would have helped that argument.
I think if he wins now, he'll be considered the greatest.
Right. That goes without saying. But if Kawhi there, that would have helped.
If Kawhi wins with the Clippers, it's no contest.
Oh man, that would be
because
something.
That's the San Antonio Spurs, the Toronto Raptors, and the Los Angeles Clippers. That's 3 small market teams.
Just 2 small market teams is just insane. Like, one small market team is. If Lillard won in Portland, it would be just the craziest thing. The fact that Dirk won 1 in Dallas, well, it set him up for among the greats of all time. Now it's like, whoa, we have to consider Kawhi as one of the greats. Wait. Are we going to consider Kawhi better than KD? Even if he doesn't win anymore? Even if he doesn't win anymore, is Kawhi better than KD? Because KD only won 2 with Golden State Warriors. Granted, he was Finals MVP in both of those years, but so was Kawhi.
I think honestly the difference in Kawhi with everybody else is his defense. It comes down to that. Like, he's a freak of nature with his length, with the size of his hands.
So is he number 3 all time? Like, where are we going with this? How good is this guy?
I've given up trying to rank people all time, because how do you compare anybody to Kevin Durant? Have you seen another player like Kevin Durant who could shoot like that at 7 feet tall? Nobody can stop him. It doesn't matter who you have guarding him. Like, Kawhi Leonard and LeBron James could probably double team Kevin Durant, and he's still going to find a way to score.
No, and in Kevin Durant's prime of primes, on the greatest stage in the NBA Finals against LeBron James in his prime, he prevailed twice.
Ugh. Well, the Golden State Warriors prevailed. The Golden State Warriors prevailed.
Who has a better chance of winning a championship? KD in Brooklyn or Kawhi in Clippers?
Oh, the Clippers. Whoever you were going to say, not KD. I honestly, I don't wish terrible things for Kevin Durant. I really don't. I hope that he comes back healthy, and I'm really excited for him to team up with Kyrie Irving and see how that kind of messed up dynamic works. I have no idea. Maybe it works out. I don't think Kevin Durant is as bad of a heel as he's been made out to be. I think he's going to turn back into that kind of Bible-thumping hero that he was when he was in OKC, playing for a smaller market team.
I just think, Dirk Nowitzki, he wasn't like an athletic god. He wasn't, and even when in 2011, he was kind of at the hill, over the hill, at the hill, over. You know what I mean? he took a deep dive shortly after that run. So I'm thinking, man, if Kevin Durant is like Dirk Nowitzki athleticism, but he can still do the same things as Dirk, can still shoot. I mean, he's gonna have Kyrie Irving, but I think he might have a chance.
Yeah, I'm very.
I think he has a better chance than people are giving him.
Yeah, that could be true. Actually, I think it'll be interesting to see Kevin Durant take over a team again.
He's gonna be a center. He's gonna gain 30 pounds. He's gonna be a center. Actually, wait a minute. I take that back. Great players of all time do not change. I'm sorry. Because I thought LeBron.
He's been trying to gain 30 pounds for the last 10 years. It's not going to work.
And I thought LeBron was going to transition into full-time power forward, and now he's going to be a point guard. It's like, whoa, okay, wait. He needs to be Karl Malone and set screen. Well, he's not going to ever set screens. But, I mean, you look at you.
Dude, a LeBron James, Rajon Rondo pick and roll with Anthony Davis rocking weak side.
No, it's going to be a LeBron James, Anthony Davis. It's going to be a LeBron James, Anthony Davis pick and roll with Rondo in the corner.
Rondo can't do anything in the corner. He needs the ball. What's he going to do? Shoot it? I don't know. The West is exciting. The NBA is exciting, especially. I mean, the NBA is set up for like 2 years down the road.
Back to the Clippers. It's so weird that it's like Kawhi got his perfect complementary player in Paul George. Do you got to go?
Almost. Yeah, I got a couple minutes. Go ahead.
I mean, it's just, I guess Siakam was a really good complementary player to Kawhi, but I think Paul George might be a better one. Paul George is like a guy who was in the MVP conversation last year. He was the guy that carried Russell Westbrook in the regular season, so much so that it tore his labrums. But in this NBA, in the 2019-2020 season, you're going to see a lot of nights where Kawhi Leonard is resting because he's going to have that problem moving forward. And you have a Paul George to take a lot of the pressure off. And then come playoff time where Paul George can't get it done. When Kawhi Leonard has proven time and time and again, he can get it done. Unless he gets injured like he did with Zaza. Because yeah. It's a perfect fit.
Paul George played fantastic in the playoffs, though, against Portland.
Ooh.
Not all 5 games, but the last few, like Game 5, he took over. It was
with
Damian Lillard.
Shoulders.
Yeah, that was Damian Lillard against Paul George, and Paul George had a fantastic game. I actually kind of felt sorry for him when Lillard buried that historic dagger in his heart.
Lillard he broke up a franchise.
Oh, yeah. He sent 2 MVP caliber players to different teams with that shot.
Ouch. I think
destroyed
we should end on that.
Him.
We just need to all right, we'll talk soon.
All right.